I was 43 years old in 1998 when I realized that the parts of us we hide the deepest are often the ones that make us most human. I've learned that some truths are meant to be carried quietly, not because they're shameful, but because they're sacred. What I'm about to tell you are the 6 pieces of myself I've never spoken aloud until this moment, and maybe you'll recognize your own quiet burdens in mine. The first tender part is this: I still grieve the child I never had with the man I loved most. Not my husband. My husband gave me 2 beautiful daughters, and I love them with everything I am. But before him, there was someone else. We were 22, reckless and burning with the kind of love that felt like it could reshape the world. I got pregnant that summer. We were terrified and thrilled in equal measure, planning a small wedding, imagining a tiny apartment with a crib in the corner. Then at 12 weeks, my body simply let go. The doctors said these things happen, that it was nobody's fault. But he looked at me differently after that, like I was made of something breakable. We ended 6 months later, and he married someone else within a year. I saw him once at a grocery store in 2003. He had a little boy with him, maybe 4 years old, with his same dark curls. I stood in the cereal aisle watching them laugh together, and something in my chest cracked open again. I went home and cried in my car for an hour. I never told anyone, not even my husband, that I sometimes imagine what that child would have looked like at 26 years old now. Would they have had his eyes? My stubborn chin? I don't share this because people would say I'm living in the past, that I should be grateful for what I have. And I am grateful. But grief doesn't work that way. It lives alongside gratitude in a room of its own. And sometimes late at night I visit that room and hold that loss like it's still fresh. The second piece is harder to say. I resent my mother in ways I've never been able to reconcile. She died in 2015, and at her funeral, everyone spoke about how devoted she was, how selfless, how she gave everything to her family. And it's true, she gave everything. But what nobody mentions is what it's like to be the daughter of a woman who martyrs herself so completely that you grow up drowning in the weight of her sacrifices. Every choice I made was measured against what she'd given up. When I got into college, she reminded me she'd never had that chance. When I bought my first house, she mentioned how she and my father had rented for 30 years. It wasn't cruelty exactly. It was more like she needed me to carry her disappointments so she wouldn't have to face them alone. I became good at it, at absorbing her regrets and making them my responsibility. I tried so hard to make her proud. But nothing ever seemed like enough, because I wasn't just living my life, I was supposed to be living the life she'd missed. When she got sick, I took care of her for 3 years. I bathed her, fed her, sat with her through the long, frightening nights. And I did it with love, real love, because she was my mother. But on the day she died, mixed in with the grief was this terrible, guilty relief. I finally didn't have to carry her anymore. I've never said that out loud. People would think I'm cruel. But the truth is, you can love someone deeply and still feel crushed by the weight of them. And sometimes the only way to survive is to let yourself feel both things at once. The third tender part is about my body. I've hated it for most of my life in ways I've never admitted to anyone. Not in the simple way people complain about weight or wrinkles. Deeper than that. I look at myself and see a collection of failures. This body lost that first pregnancy. This body couldn't produce enough milk when my daughters were born, so I fed them formula while drowning in shame at every pediatrician appointment. This body developed endometriosis so severe that by 38, I'd had a hysterectomy, and with it went any chance of having more children, even though my husband had quietly mentioned wanting a son. This body gained 60 pounds after menopause no matter what I did, and I watched my husband's eyes slide past me at parties, landing on younger, smaller women. This body got breast cancer at 59, and they cut pieces away. And now when I undress, I see a topography of scars that tell the story of everything I couldn't control. I've spent 71 years living in this body like it's a prison I didn't choose. And the worst part is that I know I'm supposed to love it, to celebrate it, to be grateful it's still functioning. But I can't. I look in mirrors as little as possible. I've never told anyone this because it sounds like vanity, like I'm shallow or self-absorbed. But it's not about beauty. It's about betrayal. My body has betrayed me over and over, and I'm tired of pretending I've made peace with it. The fourth piece is about my marriage. My husband is a good man. He's been faithful, reliable, present. He's worked hard to give us a comfortable life. He's never hit me, never screamed at me, never abandoned us. And I've spent 46 years feeling lonely anyway. We don't talk about real things. We talk about bills and errands and what the grandchildren are doing. And underneath all of it is this vast ocean of things we've never said to each other. I don't think he knows me. I don't think I know him. Somewhere around year 15, we just stopped trying to reach across that distance. We became roommates who share a bed and a last name. And it's my fault too. I stopped talking because he stopped listening. Or maybe he stopped listening because I stopped talking. And now we're trapped in this polite, comfortable silence that feels like slowly disappearing. I see other couples, even older ones, holding hands or laughing about some private joke, and I feel this deep ache of envy. I chose safety over passion. I chose stability over connection. And I can't even regret it entirely because my daughters grew up in a peaceful home. And isn't that worth something? But late at night, when he's asleep beside me, I sometimes cry quietly because I'm going to die one day, having never been fully seen by the person closest to me. I've never said this because it sounds ungrateful. It sounds like I'm diminishing everything he's provided. But you can be grateful and heartbroken at the same time. The fifth tender part is darker still. I was cruel to my younger daughter in ways I've never apologized for because I don't know how. She was difficult from the start, colicky and restless and endlessly demanding. My older daughter was easy, compliant, eager to please. But the younger one questioned everything, pushed every boundary, needed more than I had to give. And I resented her for it. I know that's horrible to admit. She didn't ask to be born, didn't ask to be sensitive and complicated. But by the time she was 7 or 8, I'd already started pulling away. I compared her to her sister constantly. I made her feel like a burden. When she cried, I told her she was too dramatic. When she needed comfort, I was too tired. She's 43 now, married, successful, seems happy enough, but we're not close. She calls on holidays, sends cards, visits dutifully, but there's a coolness between us that I created and now don't know how to undo. A few years ago, she was in therapy, and she called me one night, said she wanted to talk about some childhood things. I panicked. I told her I was tired, that we could talk another time. We never did. I know what she would say. I know what I did wrong. But facing it directly feels impossible because then I'd have to acknowledge that I damaged my own child, that some of her struggles are my fault, and I don't know if I'm strong enough to carry that guilt consciously. So I keep it buried, and we keep our distance, and I tell myself it's better this way. But it's not better. I'm running out of time to fix it, and I'm too much of a coward to try. The sixth and final piece is the most tender of all. I don't know if I believe in anything anymore. I was raised with faith, went to church every Sunday, prayed before meals, taught my daughters to do the same. But somewhere along the way, through all the losses and disappointments and unanswered prayers, I stopped believing any of it meant anything. When my mother was dying, I prayed desperately for her suffering to end. It went on for months. When I had cancer, people said God had a plan. What plan involves cells turning against themselves? When I look at the world, at all the cruelty and randomness and pain, I can't make sense of a loving God who allows it. But I keep going through the motions. I still go to church some Sundays. I still bow my head when others pray. I do it because it's easier than admitting I've lost something I can't get back. My husband still believes, simply and completely. My daughters believe in their own ways. And I feel like a fraud sitting among them, mouthing words I don't mean anymore. This is the loneliest secret of all, because faith is supposed to be a comfort, and I've lost access to that comfort. I'm facing the end of my life with no certainty about what comes after, no conviction that any of this suffering has meaning. And I can't tell anyone because it would worry them, disappoint them, make them try to fix me. So I carry this emptiness alone. These 6 tender parts of myself have lived quietly inside me for decades. I've never spoken them aloud because the world doesn't make space for this kind of honesty. We're supposed to be grateful, forgiving, content. We're supposed to love our bodies, cherish our marriages, adore our children, trust in something larger than ourselves. And maybe some people do. But I've learned that being human means carrying impossible contradictions. You can love someone and resent them. You can be grateful and heartbroken. You can have a good life and still feel like you're suffocating. The parts of us we hide aren't always ugly or shameful. Sometimes they're just true. And truth doesn't need an audience to exist. It exists in the quiet spaces inside us, in the rooms we visit alone. I'm telling you this now not because I need your forgiveness or understanding, but because maybe you have your own tender parts you've been hiding. Maybe you've been carrying contradictions that feel too heavy to name. And maybe it helps to know that someone else, an old woman you'll never meet, has been carrying her own unbearable truths and surviving anyway. We're all more broken and complicated than we let on. And that's okay. That's human. That's enough.